Welcome to Module 9, Lesson 2. You're going to go to page 212. In this lesson, we're going to use different ways to write and say the time shown on a clock. So we're going to continue working with time here. Let's look at our build understanding. G leaves school at 2:15. Show and say the time. How can you show the time on the clocks? Let's start with the digital clock. We know it's 2:15. Let's think about where that minute hand would be if it was 15 minutes. We skip count, start with the 1, 5, 10, 15. So our long minute hand will point towards the 3. Now 2:15 means we are on the way to 3 o'clock, but we're still closer to 2. So our hour hand will point between 2 and 3, but closer to the 2. How can we say this time? Well, there's more than one way to say time on the clock. We can also say it as 15 minutes after 2. Because we've gone 15 minutes past the hour. Let's look at our vocabulary. Another way to say this is a quarter past. Look at our clock. If I split it into 4 sections, you can see that 15 minutes is 1/4 of the clock. So we can say it's a quarter past 2. Ross has a piano lesson at 5:15. Show and say the time. How can we write the time on the clocks? Well, again, let's start with our digital clock. 5:15. I remember from the last problem that 15 minutes will point towards the 3. Now this time our hour is 5:15. That means it's 5 and it's going to be 6. So my hour hand will point between 5 and 6. How can we say this? We can say it's 15 minutes after 5, or remember 15 minutes is equal to the quarter past 5. Calvin gets picked up from school at 3:30. Show and say the time. We'll fill in the digital clock first. 3:30. Let's find where a minute hand would point for 30. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So our minute hand will point at the 6. Our hour is 3. That means it's on its way to being 4 o'clock. And it's actually right halfway between. So our hour hand will point halfway between 3 and the next hour, 4. We can say this in another way too. Instead of 15 minutes after, this is 30 minutes. 30 minutes after 3. Now take a look at the vocabulary. When I'm looking at this group of 30 minutes, I can break my clock in half. Another way to say 30 minutes after is half past. So it's half past which hour? Half past the hour 3. So we can also say half past 3. Eva eats dinner at 5:30. Show and say the time. Let's go ahead and write it to Julie first. 5:30. I remember the minute hand will point to the 6 because that gives me groups of 5 to get to 30. 5:30 means it's 5 o'clock going towards 6 o'clock. So my hour hand will point between 5 and 6. It's 30 minutes past 5. Remember, we can say 30 minutes as 5:30. Right. Let's look at our step it out problem on the next page. Caroline goes for a walk with her family at 12:30. Write the time on the clocks. It's 12:30. So first we're going to go ahead and draw the minute hand. Remember, 12:30 is 30 minutes. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And now we can add the hour hand. Now it's 12:30. That means it's 12 and it's going towards the hour 1. Our hour hand will point between 12 and 1. So if it's 12:30, that's the same as saying 12:30. All right. You're going to go ahead and complete the check understanding. You'll draw the hands to show the time and then write the time digitally. Number 1, Sam eats a snack at 4:15. So think about where that would be if we split our clock into quarters. Number 2, Les has lunch at 11:30. So now we're thinking about our clock in half. And number 3, Jill has a lesson at 20 minutes after 1. So we know we're after 1 o'clock by 20 minutes. Go ahead and solve. Pause the video if you need more time. For number 1, I know a 4:15 means 15 minutes after 4. I remember that 15 minutes will point at the 3. 4:15 means it's 4 o'clock on its way to 5 o'clock. So the hour hand will point between 4 and 5, but closer to the 4. Les has lunch at 11:30. 12:30 is equal to 30 minutes after 11. For 30 minutes, the minute hand points to 6. That means it's halfway between 11 and 12. It's 11:30. So my hour hand will point between 11 and 12. And finally, Jill has a lesson 20 minutes after 1. 5, 10, 15, 20. Our minute hand points to 4. If it's 1:20, that means it's 1 on its way to being 2. So our hour hand points between 1 and 2.